Keto was amazing. I mean, for the first time in my life, I felt as though my brain turned on with
Yep.
including more fat in my diet because
I
everything
get
had
that.
been low
Low
fat.
fat.
And it was crazy. It was
Yeah.
crazy what it did for me, what it did
Yeah.
for me cognitively, but also my body completely changed.
Mm.
I worked out at a pretty high level. I was working out probably 5 days a week at that time.
Mm.
And when I went keto and I was working out and I was, fasting and all of that, I I was down to, a single digit body fat, which was just insane. It was almost as though as the fat increased, the fat and the calories increased, I was like, I was absolutely shrinking and
Wow.
disappearing. I had terrific, muscle. I was
Right.
able to actually build muscle. I was in my mid 40s when
Wow.
yeah. So, keto's amazing. Keto works until it doesn't.
Yeah. Agreed.
It was amazing, but mistakes were made. I didn't
Right.
understand what I understand now,
Yeah.
and things took a dive, a really bad
Hmm.
dive. And now looking back, I can completely understand what it was that I did and where I made the mistakes. Tried to gain weight while still being keto, couldn't. And at that time, my boys, Logan was in eighth grade. So we started talking about, okay, do we want to send them to private school, private high school? So as I started to explore the boys going to private school, that was, getting them into bed and late nights of researching private
Hmm.
schools and what should we do? What's the right thing to do? So that was the only time in my life that I ever really sort of broke my circadian rhythm. And I was staying up until probably 2 a.m. on
Mm.
my tablet, researching, reading, pondering, sleeping later, and instantly I gained 40 pounds.
What?
And it was instant. It was instant. My thyroid tanked, my
Wow.
hormones tanked, my I gained 40 pounds, and I was still eating the same and I was still exercising at the same level. And
Wow.
in hindsight, now I look back and I think I just completely ruined my light environment.
Anytime I talk about circadian rhythms, light and health, and how you can just gain weight from changing your light environment
Mm-hmm.
because of how it affects the hormonal system of your body, oh, people come out in droves to tell you that you're wrong. I
Real.
have talked with so many women
Mm-hmm.
that are, and it's usually in their 40s and above.
Mm-hmm.
It's becoming younger and younger now that just wake up, with this extra weight gain.
Mm-hmm.
And they never ever think to correlate it with circadian health. For me, it was like the massive weight gain that I was like, well, how does this doesn't even make sense, but now looking back, it makes perfect sense because I was wearing AirPods 24/7 and on social media all the time. And, trying to get my podcast and YouTube and everything kind of up and doing well and on technology constantly and never going outside. And then all of a sudden my body started shutting down on me. And it was like, oh, and it was you who reached out to me and was like, would you like to interview Dr. Cruz? I'm like, yeah. And so many people I think now are open to this information that maybe they were not before because they are experiencing things like you with this 40-pound weight gain, or autoimmune issues or just so many health problems. The last place that they would think to look is circadian health, but
Right.
they've absolutely looked everywhere else and they're
Mm-hmm.
getting nowhere and spending money left and right. And this is very cheap what we do,
Right.
what we have to do.
Right. To have that, that crash happen
Mm-hmm.
to me and to see what it did to my thyroid, because
Mm.
my thyroid was exposed to, to blue light at 2 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
And to see my fasting insulin go from what was typically a 2 to an 11.
Wow.
With no change in my diet. But what really concerned me was to see my HSCRP go from a 0.5 to a 4.
Oh, wow.
That's
very problematic. Yeah.
Very inflammatory. And I just, immediately was like, something isn't right. I need to course correct quickly. Immediately, it was non-negotiable to get AM sunlight, to be out at sunrise every day. Not just waking up at that time, but being outside at that time every day. And then, from there, just making the conscious decision, the educated decision to make sure that I was spending every afternoon, every lunch hour outside, and also being extremely mindful of my light environment at night. As I started to do those things, things started to come around. That's when I really explored carnivore at that time as well. And so I think that really helped to sort of course correct some of what was happening. It definitely was more so the light environment.
Yep.
And then, adding in that food component of carnivore that I think really just got me back to myself. And my kids have had the blue blocking glasses most of their lives. I mean, most of their lives. And also, as my kids were growing up, video games, television, things like that. I mean, we live in a great neighborhood, tons of kids, mostly boys. So they were always outside, always playing. There was always some sort of a sports game happening. Games, video games, my kids weren't exposed to them until, probably those middle school years. I mean, elementary school, like second, third grade kind of thing. Yes. But we had very strict rules in this house that they could not game during the week, and they could only game Saturday and Sunday mornings until noon. That was it. And we never broke that rule. They also were not allowed to video game during the summer or during school vacations. We were up in Maine. We go up to my dad's house on the lake every summer, and we, over the past few years, we take an entire carload full of boys, teenage boys, and we're up there a couple of years ago. And one of Logan's friends, the first day we were there, he had sunglasses on all day. I didn't say anything.
You didn't.
And the next day, he was very sunburned, and I just said to him, do you understand why you got sunburned yesterday? And he said, well, yeah, I forgot my sunblock. And I said, no, actually, there's a much more interesting reason. And I explained to him about the sunglasses and exactly what that did. And I said, you essentially, you're, getting a tan, melanin in your skin is what, protects you. And I said, you sort of block that natural signal from the sun when you're in a strong UV. And I said, you basically, left yourself vulnerable. And he just looked at me and he said, well, that makes sense.
Wow.
And I said, yeah, it does. And I never saw him with the sunglasses on again. I've worked with a number of people, and, helping them with their kids. It's heartbreaking to me. It's heartbreaking because these, people that I know well, and who they're wonderful parents. They're really wonderful, loving parents. And these kids are being brought up in really stable, loving families. And these kids are being checked into, hospitals because, and put on suicide watch. And so, it's not due to, bad parenting or abuse or neglect or trauma. And it's absolutely heartbreaking. and, you know, just helping them to educating them on what they need to do for their kids, and also, you know, talking to the kids and explaining to them, your brain is being hijacked every day. I'm on duty, guys, you know, make sure you have your glasses on, you know, make sure your phone's down here on the counter, in airplane mode. You know, I have the Faraday pouches.